At 30,000 feet above the Atlantic, Flight 918 felt like any other overnight journey. Dim lights, soft engine hum, passengers lost in sleep and silence. The cabin smelled faintly of coffee and recycled air. Outside the windows, the sky was endless black, dotted with distant stars. In row 17 by the window sat Lena Carter, a 16-year-old girl with her knees tucked close to her chest. She wasn't afraid of flying, but she never truly relaxed either. Her father had taught her too much about what could go wrong in the air. Her father. She pushed the thought away and stared at the wing cutting through the dark. She counted the blinking lights, red, white, red like a quiet rhythm to calm her mind. That was when the rhythm broke. The engines didn't stop, but something changed, a subtle drop, barely noticeable, like the moment an elevator hesitates before continuing downward. Lena frowned. Across the aisle, a man snored softly. 2 rows ahead, a baby stirred. No one else seemed to feel it, but Lena did. Her father had once told her, the sky speaks quietly before it screams. Then the seatbelt sign flickered. On, off, on again. A low murmur spread through the cabin. One of the flight attendants paused mid-step, gripping the seat back. Her smile vanished. A second later, the intercom clicked. Static. The sound of breathing. The nothing. No captain's voice. No calm announcement. Just silence. The plane jolted, harder this time. Gasps filled the cabin. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else whispered a prayer. The engines roared louder, fighting against unseen air currents. Lena's heart began to race. She watched the flight attendants rush toward the front, whispering urgently to each other. One of them knocked on the cockpit door. No answer. She knocked again, harder. Still nothing. The plane dipped sharply. Screams erupted. Lena grabbed the armrests, her knuckles white. Her mind raced through possibilities she never wanted to think about. She remembered her father's words again. If the cockpit goes quiet, that's when you listen the hardest. Finally, the lead flight attendant turned toward the cabin, her face pale. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice trembling despite her effort to stay calm, "we are experiencing a situation." That single word, situation, sent panic through the plane. "The captain and co-pilot are currently unable to respond," she continued. "If there is anyone on board with flight experience, please identify yourself." For a moment, there was nothing. No hands, no voices, just fear. People looked around desperately. A businessman shook his head. A retired engineer stared at the floor. Someone whispered, "We're dead." Lena's chest felt tight. She told herself to stay seated. She was just a teenager. No license, no real flight hours. Just simulators, just lessons, just memories. But then the plane lurched again, dropping several feet in a violent shudder. A child screamed. That did it. Lena stood up. "I have experience," she said. Her voice was clear but quiet. The flight attendant turned sharply. "What?" "I've flown before," Lena repeated. "Not commercial, but I know the controls." People stared. A teenager? A girl? Someone laughed in disbelief. Someone else shouted, "Sit down!" Lena swallowed. Her hands were shaking now, but she didn't sit. "My dad was a military test pilot," she said. "He trained me on simulators, emergency procedures, radio protocol." The attendant hesitated. The plane tilted again, forcing her hand onto a seat for balance. That hesitation lasted exactly 1 second. "Come with me," she said. The walk to the cockpit felt unreal. Passengers watched as Lena passed them, some hopeful, some terrified, some angry. She could feel their eyes burning into her back. The cockpit door opened. The first thing Lena did was breathe. Not fast, not shallow. One slow breath in, one slow breath out. Just like her father had taught her in the simulator room behind their house. Panic burned at the edges of her mind, but she forced it back. "Fly the plane first." Panic later. The aircraft bucked again, turbulence slamming into the fuselage like invisible fists. Warning lights continued to blink, but the nose stayed level, for now. Lena scanned the instruments. Altitude dropping slightly. Airspeed unstable. Autopilot still disengaged. She tightened her grip on the yoke and spoke again into the radio. "Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Flight 918. If anyone reads me, respond." A burst of static crackled. Then, "Flight 98, this is Boston Center. We read you. Lena almost cried. She swallowed hard. Boston Center pilot and co-pilot are incapacitated. I'm a minor with simulator training. I have manual control but limited experience. There was a pause, long enough to feel terrifying. Flight 918, the controller said carefully. You are doing great. We're with you now. Just keep the aircraft stable. Behind Lena, the flight attendant let out a sob of relief. The controller continued. Can you maintain current heading and altitude? Lena checked the instruments. I can try. That's all we need, he replied, calm, solid, human. Storm clouds rose ahead like dark mountains. Lightning flashed again, closer now. Boston Center, Lena said. We've got weather dead ahead. Understood, the controller replied. We're redirecting you. Turn 10 degrees left, gentle input. Lena adjusted the yoke slowly. The plane resisted, then complied. The horizon shifted. The turbulence eased slightly. In the cabin, the flight attendants made an announcement. Not about danger, but about hope. Ladies and gentlemen, we have contact with air traffic control. Please remain seated. Passengers clutched each other. Some cried openly. Others whispered the same name over and over. Lena. Back in the cockpit, a medical volunteer worked desperately on the captain. No response. Lena didn't look. She couldn't. She focused on the sky, the numbers, the voice in her headset. Hours seemed to pass, though it was only minutes. Fuel was stable. Systems were holding, but barely. The storm battered the aircraft as they passed its outer edge. Wind shear jolted the plane downward, sending Lena's stomach into her throat. Correct. Easy, easy, the controller coached. Lena adjusted. The aircraft leveled. You're flying beautifully, he said. Her eyes burned. I'm trying not to think, she admitted. That's perfect, he replied. Thinking comes later. Eventually, the clouds broke. Below them, the lights of a city spread across the earth like spilled gold. Flight 918, Boston Center said. We are lining you up for an emergency landing. Runway will be cleared. Fire and rescue standing by. Lena nodded even though he couldn't see her. Okay. The word felt impossibly small. The descent began. Gravity pressed her into the seat. The plane groaned as if protesting the weight of responsibility she'd placed on it. Her hands ached from gripping the controls. At 10,000 feet, the cabin grew eerily quiet. No screaming now, no talking. Only faith. Lower flaps, the controller instructed. Lena followed carefully. The aircraft slowed. Wind gusted hard from the right, pushing the plane off alignment. Correct left, the controller said. She did. Runway lights appeared ahead, bright, straight, real. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might drown out the radio. Final approach, the controller said. You're almost there. Almost. A sudden crosswind slammed the plane sideways. Lena gasped. Stay with it, the controller urged. You've got this. She remembered being 10 years old, sitting in her father's lap in a simulator, hands barely big enough to hold the yoke. Trust the plane, he'd said. It wants to land. Lena trusted. She adjusted, leveled, held steady. The ground rushed up. Throttle back, now. She pulled gently. The wheels hit the runway hard. The plane bounced once, twice. Hold it, Lena corrected. The third contact stuck. Tires screamed, smoke burst upward. The aircraft slowed, shuddered, then finally rolled to a stop. Silence. Then applause. Shouting, crying, prayers spoken out loud. Lena slumped back in the seat, every muscle trembling. She removed the headset and stared forward, unable to process what she'd done. Emergency crews surrounded the plane. Medics rushed the cockpit. A senior officer leaned in and looked at her in disbelief. You flew this plane? Lena nodded weakly. I just listened. News cameras caught everything as passengers disembarked. People hugged her, thanked her, called her a miracle. But Lena didn't feel like one. Later, wrapped in a blanket on the tarmac, she watched the sunrise break over the runway. Someone asked her how she'd found the courage. She thought of row 17, of the quiet seat, of a father's voice. I didn't, she said softly. I just couldn't stay seated. At 30,000 feet, when every voice went silent, a teenage girl stood up. And the sky listened, and chaos greeted her. Warning alarms screamed, lights flashed red and amber. The captain slumped in his seat, oxygen mask hanging loose. The co-pilot was unconscious, his head tilted at an unnatural angle. Lena froze. For half a heartbeat, then training kicked in. "Secure the cabin," she told the attendant. "Get medical help for them. I need the headset." The attendant didn't question her. She moved. Lena slid into the pilot's seat. It felt too big, too real. Her fingers hovered over the controls. She closed her eyes briefly and pictured her father standing behind her, arms crossed, calm as ever. "Fly the plane first," he used to say. "Panic later." She opened her eyes. Altitude unstable, autopilot disengaged, the aircraft drifting off course. Lena grabbed the yoke and corrected gently, too hard, and she could stall them. The nose steadied. The screaming alarms softened to a steady warning tone. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." She put on the headset and pressed the radio button, her voice shaking only slightly. "Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Flight 918. Pilot incapacitated. I repeat, pilot incapacitated." Static answered. Her stomach dropped. She tried again. Nothing. Behind her, the attendant whispered, "Lena, passengers are panicking." Lena didn't turn around. "Tell them we're still flying," she said, "and we're not done yet." The plane shuddered as it hit turbulence. Outside, lightning flashed in the distance. Lena tightened her grip. She was 16. She was unlicensed, and she was the only thing keeping 173 people alive.